This module focuses on supporting evidence within argumentative writing. This is a Title I supplemental writing instruction for the MAISA Argumentative Writing Unit. Essentially, within the Common Core, this module will focus upon the idea of being able to identify and use textual evidence to support conclusions or statements made. The teaching points that this lesson is organized around focus upon the idea of informational text being organized around big ideas with supporting details, as well as reminding writers that they must provide specific support that is focused upon the claim of the piece they are writing. The goals of this lesson is then to reach those teaching points. Students frequently make claims but don't have the support needed to give a solid reasoning behind that claim, and that is what we are working on today. This is one of the things that if you think back to your childhood or you ask your students about, you remember whenever you would ask your parents a question and they would say no, and you would ask why, and you would get the because answer, because I said so. And so you actually want to start this unit out with that same idea. So have a volunteer come up and carry on a conversation with that volunteer. So for instance, you might have the student ask you a question and simply tell that student no. Then he will ask why, and you'll give because. And he will keep asking why until he's satisfied with the reasoning you give him. Essentially, you're going to have to simply just stop because he probably will not be happy, because your goal right now is simply to keep saying because I said so, because I said so, that's why. And then, as a class, discuss why the reasons you gave were not satisfying. Was there any meat behind what you were saying? Or was there solely opinions, and opinions that weren't even supported because we didn't learn what they were, just because I said so. So you want to talk about using effective evidence, the need for evidence in general, and making sure that that evidence is focused upon the claim. If you have time, I would suggest watching a 5-minute video clip on YouTube about using supporting details, and then as a class discuss the ideas presented there. On the bottom left of the screen, you can see the beginning title of that YouTube video. How do you gather evidence to support your argumentative essay? Then as a class, you want to read an article and identify the support that's being used. This is a copy of an article that I have read and marked up with some of the ideas of here's the claim, here's support. Is this really on topic for that claim? And questions highlighting things like that. So as you read aloud, model the process of doing this, underlining those key pieces of supporting information and questions that you might have. I think this is supposed to support the claim, but I'm not sure that it does. This does a great job of supporting the claim. This article, Kids Who Use Facebook Do Worse in School, is one that I chose simply because of the fact that students are on Facebook constantly. So this is something that relates to them. Then when I started reading this article, I realized that it actually does a really good job of showing what happens if you don't focus your evidence upon the claim itself. Then you'll take an evidence chart. And you'll see the 3 different columns there. One is just the evidence given, whether or not the evidence is effective, and if the students have any questions about the evidence. On the right, you'll see the one that I filled out for the article, Kids Who Use Facebook Do Worse in School. And you'll see that there are some no's and somewhats in the is the evidence effective column. So I would discuss that with my students. You'll see questions too where I say no. Students tend to lose focus every 3 minutes while studying. Interesting, but does that focus upon Facebook? Does that mean that they're on Facebook every 3 minutes? We would need to know that. Are they just multitasking, or are they checking out Facebook? Same idea. Students who toggle between windows and other tasks performed worse. It could be if we know that they're toggling between their study window and their Facebook window. But again, we don't know if it's solely Facebook that they're going to, or if they're multitasking with other websites as well. Then you may wish to give your students for the guided practice an article you have not read yet. Give the students the article's claim. Sometimes identifying that is one of the more difficult parts for them. So if they already know what the claim is, they are solely looking for that supporting evidence, which is today's focus and today's goal. Give them an evidence chart and have them read the article, annotate that article, and then record and analyze the evidence as given. Just another copy of that evidence chart. Finally, for independent practice, you'll have the students do the same type of thing, except you may have them work individually if you allow them to work with partners in guided practice. There might not be a class discussion following this, but have the students read an article and then in their writer's notebook, have them identify what those key pieces of evidence were, if the evidence given was sufficient, what details were the most effective, and if any more information is needed. If you prefer, you could also require them to fill out an evidence chart instead of writing in their writer's notebook about the validity and solidarity of the evidence. Here are some additional resources that you may wish to read or use with your students.